crime. From cold cases to serial killers, missing persons, and more.
100% he did this.
I'd go off into fantasy world.
How much more lucky can you get that you're not on death row?
You want to know what we know.
My name is Jay. This is Guilty of Crime.
Hello, everybody. We've got 18 people on a Saturday night, and we're talking about, all right, it's been tiring. Let's turn the volume up here so you can hear me. It's Saturday, and we're going to get this straight. We're going to get it straight for the trial coming up on Monday. We're on day 4. I'm going to say hi as people roll in, but I don't feel like I did the treadmill murder the full justice that it deserved yesterday, because when I come at you all with an episode, I'm able to talk to you and say, boom, 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 here it is. Give you a timeline, tell you what's the real deal. And I love having my guests. I absolutely love everybody. But of course, we all talk. And then sometimes sight gets lost of my bullet points of what I want to talk about. So today I'm here to talk about the treadmill murder again, but we're not going to go over the same content. We're going to go over it, and we're going to go over it in detail of what happened to get you ready for the trial. And we're going to tell you what really happened so that you're ready for day 4. I'm going to say hello as people roll in. Melissa, hit that like button as you roll in, please. Gothic Breathe, thank you for being here. I'm glad you're awake now. Sadie's mama, hello. Number 2. Kenzie, what's up from the UK? How you doing? And Carly, as usual, thank you. Always. Yeah, please like, subscribe, share. As soon as I got off of my live last night, I was a little disappointed to hop off of the treadmill murder. There wasn't a lot of people in chat. I felt like I didn't get the timeline out. And then I saw other people's case that was happening. And there were a ton of people in chat talking about it and engaged. And I was wondering, did we not have the right content? Did it get boring? Was there not? What happened? What happened? What happened? I don't know what happened. So I'm glad that you guys were sitting there waiting. I had to hop from one thing to the other. Valerie, hello. Mom, let's look at the comments. Sadie's mama, as always. All right, so we've got Trish in here. Again, I'm just, as you're rolling in, I am saying hi so that I can get down to it and give you the story and the timeline, and then we're going to do the behavior analysis so you can see what's really going down. Then I have an absolute smashing episode, and then we're going to go over the autopsy. When they went over the autopsy, you're going to see, let me put this on so you can see what I'm talking about. You're going to see we shouldn't even call him, but Christopher Gregor tried to, I don't know if he's trying to pretend like he's crying or what in the trial. He's not really. If he's crying, it's because he's crying for himself. So KJ, more, M, I love you too, M. Laura, Dad, all the way from the UK. What's up? I've got some new folks here today, and that's awesome. So, all right, let's get this a little bit straighter, everybody, okay? Because I want to get this proper. I want to start this episode with a true timeline and what happened, and I want to make sure I say Micciolo. It's Corey Micciolo. Yesterday I had it wrong, and I even heard other people saying it wrong, and I don't like that. Not nobody on my episode, but I heard other people doing episodes about it, and it was incorrect. I don't want incorrect names, especially of a little guy that we're doing a report on. So, that being said, let's get things proper. Deb, what's up? I'm watching the trial. It resumes on Tuesday. Okay, so it's off on Monday. Good. Then that means we're getting you ready. Kim Princess, hello. Giselle. All right. Good. As you all roll in, and then we'll start the timeline. I'm going to speak all that to you so you could know what's going down. And then we'll get into our episode. But yesterday, I feel like everybody was all over the place, including myself. I did my research, but I'm very new at having guests, and we were kind of all over the place with answering questions and so forth. So while we were answering questions, it kind of got lost what the timeline and what actually happened was. So let's go a little bit through the pictures. You can see the little guy there, Corey Micciolo, with his mother, which we watched yesterday, testifying. There he is. All right. There's the guy. I'm going to talk about watching the trial. But what we're doing is we're getting you ready for the trial on Tuesday. It's going to be day 4. I want you guys, everyone, to know, if you're not watching the trial, what this is about, the timeline, and just get ready. All right. I'm saying hi to everyone. I'm going to get started on that way nobody's confused. What happened, timeline, and then we're going to get into it. This case is about Corey Micciolo. Hit that like button as you come in. Beautiful little boy. Absolutely. Heidi, hello. I like your channel. You're doing a great job. I can see you obtaining millions of subscribers. You're not the average YouTube crime channel. You're different and better, and I appreciate that. And I want to be different, and I want to be better than myself can be. Melissa, I'm from California, Bay Area. All right, so Corey Micciolo. Let's start with the timeline, folks, because yesterday we didn't, and everyone was all over the place. Right now, we're in May 4th, 2024. This happened years ago, and it barely is going to trial now. So when you see something like this happening, it takes a while to get to trial. Okay, so it takes a while to get to trial. Let me talk about this. What happened? All right, we're going to go way back. September 19th. Christopher Gregor, the dad of Corey Micciolo, enters Corey's life after a judge grants his request for partial custody. All right. Now, we know the mom was using drugs, and she came to Christopher, the dad of Corey Micciolo, and said she wanted child support. Now, of course, Christopher didn't want to pay child support, so he goes after the custody. Now, September 2019. He didn't even know he had a son. By then, I believe he was already 4 years old. Okay, so July 20th, Corey's mother, Brianna Micciolo, reports to the New Jersey Department of Child Protection, or DCPP, that Corey had been coming home with bruises, scrapes, black eyes, and even a bite mark for almost a year. Okay, so we're not even a year into it already, and he's being abused by his father, Chris Gregor. This little boy, Corey Micciolo, popped up in his dad's life unexpectedly. He gets custody and immediately starts abusing him. Thank you, Fonda Horton. I appreciate you all as you roll in. All right. March 20th, 2021. Gregor, which is the dad, Chris, allegedly injures Corey by placing him on the treadmill. Now, we saw the treadmill yesterday. We're going to see it again. We're going to analyze it. He puts him on the treadmill, and we all see the footage. Nothing even happened for a while, folks. He puts him on the treadmill, and March of 2020, he puts him on the treadmill, he gets hurt. Now, nothing happens. They don't blame him. It's supposedly just boys being boys, whatever. Now, April 1st, 2021, the court rejects an emergency filing from Micciolo, from the mom, Brianna Micciolo, filing for an emergency custody on April Fools. Always April Fools. Court rejects it. Okay. Now, April 2nd, Corey Micciolo passes away. Remember, the treadmill happened in March of 2021. In April, the mom tries to get an emergency custody because this little boy's being abused. He falls on the treadmill, gets hurt. The mom notices, like she always did. On April 2nd, Corey Micciolo, this beautiful boy, passes away. Chris takes Corey to the New Jersey hospital where Corey complains of nausea and shortness of breath. Corey starts having seizures and passes away hours later. Upon learning the news, Gregor flees the States. Did any of you guys know that Chris fled the States like that? This was not just about a treadmill. There was lots of other prior abuse happening. Everybody. He was biting him even before the treadmill. He was biting him, hitting him, punching him, and abusing this little boy that's on the screen. Okay? Corey Micciolo. Did anybody know that? This guy that we're going to see in court, did you know that he fled? He fled the freaking United States. He knew he was in trouble. So when you see this man on trial and you hear excuses, there's no excuse for any of it. And he knew he was in trouble. He knew he was abusing him. Okay? So, July 7th, 2021, Christopher is arrested for endangering welfare of the child on the treadmill. Now, remember, the treadmill incident happened on March 20th of 2021. He didn't get arrested until July 7th of 2021. That's 3 months later, okay? And they knew that he was abusing already. A lot of people didn't know he fled. Okay, he also has a criminal record in Connecticut for assault. He was very abusive with the ex, all right? So we're in 2024 here. On March 3rd, 2022, Ocean County Prosecutor's Office receives a report from the state's expert witness, which indicates that Corey died as a result of blunt force impact to the chest and abdomen, and determined the manner of the child's death to be a homicide, everybody. Now, Chris knew it was a homicide, or he wouldn't have fled the country. He places the child at Judy Smith. He places Corey on the treadmill 6 times and lets him fall. Then he bites his head. Okay, so we're gonna show all this and examine it. But yeah, that's why I'm telling you, because I didn't understand why people were in other people's chat engaging with what wasn't even the right timeline, and nobody was in my chat yesterday really paying attention when I'm telling you the story, the timeline, and all that. And yesterday I didn't really do that because I had a guest on the show, and when I have guests, I get sidetracked. We talk. It's, all right. So he gets prosecuted March 3rd, 2022. March 9th, he's arrested, and the trial begins May 2024. That brings it to now. Tuesday's going to be the 4th day. Okay, so that's a chronological order of what happened to this little guy. All right. Now, Christopher, the dad, he used to be a high school football player and a youth mentor, and he wasn't present in Corey's life until 2019 after the judge granted their request for partial custody. Now, he had no choice but to have a relationship with his father. He didn't want to, and the relationship was abuse the entire time. Okay. So I want you to know there was a big giant custody battle, and I'll talk about that in between. But what I want to show you now is I want to go over what we did yesterday, but this time I want to do it with Dr. G so you can see what I'm talking about here, because there's some confliction for some reason in this case. I have no idea why. Let's listen to this and what we think about the body language of him in court and other various phases now that you know the backstory. Let's go.
Dr. G here. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and body language expert, and today we're going to be analyzing the behavior and body language of Christopher Gregor. Christopher Gregor is currently on trial for the murder of his 6-year-old son, Corey. It's reported that Mr. Gregor stated that his son was, quote, too fat and forced him to run on a treadmill, which resulted in injuries, which ultimately resulted in his death. Allegedly, the defense is stating that the cause of Corey's death was not related to injuries sustained on the treadmill. Before we get started with this, a couple of quick things. One, I wanted to remind you, this is not a psychological evaluation of any kind. These are just my opinions. In addition to that, the goal of this is not to prove innocence nor guilt. There is currently a jury doing that. I'm just providing commentary based on his behavior and his body language. Last thing before we get started is I do want to remind you to like and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. All right, let's go. What we're going to be looking at today is Christopher Gregor's reaction in court while having to watch the treadmill video. I'm going to be providing commentary based on his body language in court as well as in the video. Let's just jump right in.
I'll lower the background a little bit.
Now you're subtly noticing him pursing his lips like this. Now the lips are very sensitive. They help us feel a lot calmer. So we do a lot of things around the mouth and we're starting to feel stressed. As he's watching this video, he saw himself get up, and at that point he started bunching his lips. So I think that his reaction to that is that he's starting to feel stressed. He knows what's coming. So he knows this is not a good look. So we're starting to see a little bit of stress on his face. At the same time, I want you to notice how intense his gaze is. He is not averting his eyes from what's going on at all.
Sorry, when the treadmill's going like that, I try to lower it. It's annoying.
Now you're noticing his mouth bunch up more and more. You're going to keep noticing this throughout. But what I want you to also pay attention to is the lack of other emotions. I can't imagine seeing your son on one of the last days he was alive and not having any sort of emotional reaction to that. Now, that doesn't prove innocence or guilt. We're allowed to function however we do emotionally, but it's just something that's worth pointing out is that he really has no reaction to seeing his son during one of his last days. It's just really tragic.
Now, I just gave you the entire backstory to this. He didn't care about his son at all. He was forced to have a relationship with him, everybody. He didn't have that dad love. He had anger. He was already an angry person to begin with. He was a bully, and he only got partial custody so that he didn't have to pay child support, and then the mom was on drugs, so they got taken away, okay? So he was just the dad because he got her pregnant. He wasn't active by any means. And now he went to the hospital immediately, but nobody thought that it was this type of activity until they started looking into it. He got arrested 3 months later, and we're going to see him faking the crying when the autopsy photos are shown. Okay, so there should be no doubt about any of this.
Now, if you look at his body position as he's working out, as he's walking around, you can see he's got his arms really far out. And we do that to feel dominant. A lot of people probably do this when they work out because it makes them feel big. It makes them feel tough at those times. And that's what he seems to be feeling right now while he's working out. Got his arms spread out really far, taking up more physical space. We do that as a sign of dominance. We try to take up physical space. You can very much see him doing that right now. So you're getting some idea of his head space while he's exercising.
And I made it a little bit bigger for you so that you can actually see what his body language is doing. We're watching him in court, but we're seeing him here in what Dr. G's explaining. I can't help that background.
I've watched the entire video, so just to be clear, it lasts about 10 minutes. We're going to be watching clips from it today, but the amount of time that Corey was running was around 10 minutes, just to give you some frame of reference if you haven't seen this already. Now, what's also interesting is if you look at his eyes and if you look at where he's
Look
looking
at that.
while
Hold
he's in
on.
court.
Sorry about that,
Now,
guys.
this is my
My
best
bad.
guess because obviously we can't
I
line this up
messed this
perfectly.
up.
But if you watch his eyes moving,
What did I
sometimes
do?
he'll look up, sometimes he looks down. Presumably, he's looking at himself and then looking at Corey. But he's spending 95% of the time watching himself in this video, which I find fascinating.
He is watching himself in this video, and Dr. G's nailing that. Sometimes Dr. G doesn't say the things that we would want him to say, and it's not that he's saying it because we want him to say it. It's saying because he actually caught it this time. Normally he'll call out some things that are just body language and nothing to do with anything else. This time he nails it.
Now, you saw him look down just now. Now, he was watching himself, and he can see that he's preparing to start walking over towards Corey. And at that point, he looks down. And that's when we start to lose confidence because, like I said, he knows what's coming. He knows the behaviors he engaged in on this day. And so there does seem to be a lack of confidence as he sees that.
That noise, I don't know why he doesn't take that noise out of the video. I'm watching the dad walk up to him now. Dr. G's not talking.
That same posture as he walks up to Corey. You notice the arms out. As he's walking towards Corey, he's feeling intimidating. He's feeling powerful at that time. And so invading Corey's space a little bit, walking towards him. And just because you're in somebody's space doesn't mean you're invading it, but he is invading it in that sense. He is doing it in a threatening way. It's not like he's walking over to see how he's doing. It's not like he's walking over there in a supportive way. He's walking there in an intimidating way. So as he circles around, as he starts to go towards Corey, it is a way to try to, from his mind, I presume, to intimidate.
He looks like he's working himself up right now. He's very angry and he's probably saying intimidating words.
As you saw him walk around, the frustration or anger is building in him right now. Obviously, there's no legitimate frustration at Corey. It doesn't make any sense that he would have any negative feelings towards this child. However, when people are pathological in this way, they see somebody vulnerable and they want to hurt them. And so you can see it building in him. Watch this right here before he goes up to lean in on it.
Thanks, Dr. G, for taking out that background noise, sir. That was bad.
As you can see, he was shaking his head while looking down, almost denying the reality of what's happening. Once again, losing confidence. Whenever the head starts to point down, that's going to be a loss of confidence on his end.
Yeah, we're watching together, but
no.
I'm trying not to get that sound in there.
And now it seems that he's turning up the speed. I presume that's what he's doing. See, once again, shaking his head no as he engages in this behavior, almost in denial, because anybody that's watching this can see exactly what's going on. It's as plain as anything. So being stuck like that, it's forcing him to shake his head no because he is so frustrated. He's powerless in this situation. And if there's somebody, I want you to think about this, somebody that would behave this way towards a child, towards a 6-year-old, how much power does this person crave? So think about how out of power they are when they're sitting in a courtroom. Imagine what it must feel like to crave power so desperately that you would treat a 6-year-old this way and then have it where you have no control. Everybody's watching you. Everybody's watching you react. He has no choice but to shake his head no because he wants to deny the reality of where he's sitting right now.
I'm trying to keep the volume down when he's not talking because it sounds awful for the folks that are watching or not watching and and actually just listening. You should be able to hear me.
Staying in his space, staying in his physical space, getting in his face. It's all meant to intimidate. And it is intimidating. When you're a child, you oftentimes accept the situation you're in. Whether you like it or not, you just go, well, this is just what things are. And at this point, having somebody in your face, having somebody intimidate you, it seems that he has no choice but to try to just continue on and continue to do what his father is saying and insisting upon right now.
And I agree with you, Deb. If he behaves like this in public, imagine what he does in private. As I explained in the beginning, we now 110% know that in private he was abusing this child. He was biting this child. Often this child came to his mother with bite marks all over him, bruises and cuts. Okay, so yesterday we didn't really nail down the way I'd like to, and now we are going to do this. And you don't have to rewatch the video again. Yeah, I appreciate you for being here. We're just analyzing his body behavior, and then we're going to hop onto something else. I'm not going to keep rewatching, and I just want you to know the timeline and what we think about this man and what we now know.
Think about how scary this must be for this child. Obviously, this is not a behavior that's in isolation. That's one thing that we know about human behavior. Things are very, very, very rarely just a one and done. Things are very rarely going to happen once and have never happened before or never happen again. So I presume that Corey knows that if he looks at his father or does anything wrong or whatever it is, that there's going to be a price to pay. So for him leaning forward like this, somebody like Christopher Gregor right here is feeling powerful. It's exciting to him to feel this degree of power, to know that Corey is doing what he wants, that he is running on the treadmill, that he's doing what he's being commanded to do, in essence, gives Christopher a great sense of power. And you can see the ease at which he leans forward. You can see the way he tries to casually lean forward, but is also invading his space. And you can see the hands on the hips right here. Once again, that takes up more space. You think about it. Think about it, sometimes police officers stand like this because they want to make sure that they're dominant in certain situations. And that's exactly what he's doing right now. He feels so dominant. He can't help but stand this way. And he's continuing to shake his head no. Now, he may be doing that because he thinks people are watching, and he's doing it intentionally. To me, it looks involuntary. To me, it looks like he's in denial rather than him shaking his head no because he wants to show that he's remorseful or something, because it wouldn't show that anyway. But as he continues to stand there with his hands on his hips, being dominating, that's the only thing he wants. He wants absolute and utter control and power in this situation.
And you know what? I don't think that he even realized that they were going to go back and look at this recording, folks. He was getting away with it for such a long time. The mother was a drug addict, and so he probably did this all the time with the treadmill. He, when there's cameras and you go somewhere where there's cameras all the time and you're like, oh, they're never going to look back at that camera. Yeah, he's absolutely an abomination and a classic toxic, malignant, narcissist sociopath. Child M, I hope the jury in this case in your home state of New Jersey sees that he's a monster. Rest in peace, Corey. So I think he didn't realize he was even going to get in trouble. It took 3 months to even arrest this man, and all the times that CPS was notified, nothing happened. So he got comfortable. I don't even think he thought about the cameras. It looks like he is enjoying it. I agree.
I just want to warn you, this video is about to get much more difficult to watch. Now look at the type of aggression he's using to pick the child up. As Corey fell over, he made room for him to fall over so he could do this, so that he could feel powerful. Watch this part again right here, because he actually makes way for him to fall over. See, he sees that he's preparing to fall over, and he wants so badly to show his dominance, he allows him to fall over.
He nailed that one. I didn't even catch that the first time. When Corey was falling over, the dad backed up. Instead of catching him, he just moved back and let him do that. So, did you see that?
And then you can see he also tried to pick him up underneath his arms. Maybe he realized he wasn't strong enough to do it and comfortably that way. And then so he grabs him by the shirt because he wants to use as much anger as possible. And this is so commonly what we see from abusers, trying to find vulnerable people that can make themselves feel tough, make themselves feel big. Now this, and I find this disturbing beyond any words that I have to describe it. It appears that he's biting him on the head right here. And maybe he's putting his mouth in his head, but or biting at it, but it looks like he's literally putting his teeth on his head at this moment because he's got so much fury right now. And the only place he knows where to put it, apparently, is Corey. It's one of the more disturbing things that I've seen in a while. Can you imagine what it would be like to have somebody bite you on the head because they're so angry when you're doing exactly what they're telling you to do? I've rarely seen anything this horrific. But we're going to go back for a second, and we're going to watch more of his reaction as this is going on. Now, what we're not seeing is shame. Sometimes when people look down, there can be an aspect of shame to it. What we've seen so far seems to be a lack of confidence. But as the abuse is occurring, he's not looking away at all. He's not feeling shameful about this. He's not looking away. He's not having any reaction to it. He's watching it unfold in real time, and it doesn't seem to be affecting him a whole lot right now. He looked away very briefly after biting his son on the head. But beyond that, he seems to be watching it very intensely. Now he is starting to look away more because this is ramping up, and this truly is where the injuries are believed to be sustained. So there is more of a lack of confidence building, but it doesn't seem to be that he's bothered by what he's seeing.
Now, I want you to know this man, and also we have to stop. We have 111 in chat. Make a wish. Let's wish for justice for Corey, that this man gets prosecuted to the fullest. We just got up to 112. Hit that like button. But really, I wanted to hit that 111 and say that this man was offered a 30-year deal, and he declined it and decided to go to trial. Now, CBC, you asked what Christopher Gregor does for work. He is actually a real estate agent at Red Door Real Estate Company in New Jersey. He obviously doesn't work there anymore. He was arrested in 2021. So he's been in jail for a while. He doesn't have a job anymore, thankfully. Yes.
And you can see his body position during the video in the gym. Hand on his hip, arm out, trying to take up as much space as possible to remind Corey, I am in control here. Everything he's doing, every body position you're seeing, all the gestures, all of it is just to make sure that Corey knows that he's in absolute control. That's his goal right now because that's how he's feeling. He's feeling dominant. This must be very exciting for him. And he's getting exactly what he wants right now.
I'm trying to focus on justice for Corey. I'm putting up the 111s. I'm reading your comments. The mom was on methamphetamines. If you watch back to the episode yesterday, you'll see her testify in court. And thank you, CBC, for being a court reporter for years. And you've never seen something so brutal. I'm sorry you're seeing it now. I'm trying to focus on justice for this little guy, Corey. There is a trigger warning, but this is not what I want to do. I don't want to sit there and be playing bad things for you. I want to focus on justice, and I want you to know what's coming for day 4 in trial.
We're still seeing the head shakes. We're still seeing the denial of the reality of what's going on right now. And as he walks off, we're seeing that dominant posture again, keeping his arms out, feeling tough on the inside, thinking about how awesome he is probably. And the irony of situations like this is that the most average people seem to be more obsessed with everybody else's weight than their own. And not that I'm criticizing his, I could care less how much he weighs, but it's interesting that he seems to be accusing his son, who looks like he's a very normal size, of being too fat, when he also looks like he's a very average size himself. But this is oftentimes what we see. These are the ways that they control others. We'll go ahead and stop here. What we're seeing today is somebody who's able to sit and watch himself abuse his son and doesn't show much from it, shaking his head, probably denying reality. Certainly doesn't seem to show any sadness or remorse. And whether or not,
and this gives you a good idea with the body behavior analysis. I was doing this yesterday myself while I was watching him in court, and I had JT from, he has a new channel now, but I think it's called The Crime Scene JT. I get distracted when I have other people. We talk a lot. I like channels like that, but not all the time. When I want information, I want it now, and I want it fully, and I want to get to the point. So today, I'm bringing it to you per your request to get to it and let you know exactly what happened here.
not the defense believes that this is what ultimately resulted in the child's death. What we're seeing here is clearly him being abusive, and we're also seeing what seems to be a very, very minimal reaction to that, if any reaction at all, really emotionally. We certainly aren't seeing any sadness or regret. And I really do want you to consider, what would it be like to see one of the final videos of your son and to have no reaction to that? That to me speaks volumes. Hopefully this has been helpful and you better understanding some of the behavior and body language we saw while he watched this. There's a lot more footage of him, so I can analyze that from other days of the.
And thank you, Dr. G. We appreciate it, and I'm sure you will analyze from other days. Thank you, thank you, thank you. As always, we appreciate your content. Now, Terry Wilk, if you rewatch this when you're done, the doctor examined Corey, said he was scared. He wasn't not alive. He took him to the doctor, and he did not pass right away. And that's why they're saying that it's not related to the treadmill incident. So he took him to the doctor, and then other various activities throughout the week. Later on, he passed away. Yes, he is a coward, very much so. Yeah, he's probably blaming Corey for being not alive, definitely. And yeah, Dr. G's great. Every once in a while, he doesn't call things out. I think when we did the Madeline Soto case, he didn't know anything about her, and he didn't realize what was going on about Jennifer Soto or Stephen Stearns necessarily. So he did a good job with the body behavior, but sometimes you need to know a little bit of background. But he's amazing, and he doesn't do it based on background. He does it based on body language and behavior. So that's not any criticism. I have no degree in anything that has to do with criminal justice or anything like that. I have a degree in graphic design, and I am a managing director, CEO of a mechanical engineering company and a true crime, we'll call it a junkie, true crime junkie. All right. I love true crime. I study true crime, and I live and breathe these cases. And more importantly, I want justice for these children. So we've got our next clip coming up, and this is going to break a lot more down for you, for the people that. Oh, you heard that noise. I know you heard that noise. All right. There you go. Now, this happened last night, and I had to, or either that or this morning. So I wanted to bring this to you. We're not going to go in, we're going to go in a little bit faster speed and do it this way.
On video, the sickening moment daddy physically forces his 6-year-old little son to run full speed on a treadmill because he was, quote, too fat. That little boy, 6-year-old Corey, now dead from, quote, chronic abuse. We want justice. Good evening. I'm Nancy Grace.
Yes.
This is Crime Stories. Thank you for being with us.
Oh, I got to fast forward that.
Body into Southern Ocean Medical Center.
Something stuck out in the prosecutor's opening statement right there. She's given a great opening, by the way. We're taking you inside the courtroom as this case advances.
Now, we listened to full opening statements yesterday, everybody. So if you want opening statements, go back to my episode from yesterday. We listened to the prosecution's opening statement and the defense opening statement. So I don't need to do that again.
She said everything was fine other than the bruises. The bruises, everything was fine, but the bruises? In what world is that okay? He was fine other than the bruises. The boy is dead, covered in bruises. This after caught on video. Let's see the video. The sickening moment. A father forces.
Trigger warning. Trigger warning, folks. I know you saw this. If you don't want to watch it, trigger warning. Yeah, please just don't watch it again. A lot of channels are playing it in slow motion and over. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to make people see what happened and get justice for Corey. All right, so let's get through this. Trigger warning.
Look at this. Do not look away. Forcing him over and over and over to keep running, venting, spitting, fuming his rage onto a 6-year-old frail little boy. The boy is dead. That is the man you see sitting in court, pinching himself to eke out a tear. And by God, we want justice. You know how many people around the world would pay every...
Now, I know sometimes Nancy Grace, she's passionate, and I don't really like yelling into the mic like that to get my point across, but she does bring some good information today and has experts, and so I had to share this with you so you can be ready for trial on Tuesday.
Everything they've got to have a little boy like that to love, but no. You saw the video. Joining me in all-star panel to make sense of what we are learning. But first, more of that opening statement.
Corey was 6 on April 2nd, 2021, when his father murdered him. His father is this defendant, Christopher Gregor.
Justice for Corey.
This case is about Corey and how Corey became the ultimate victim of this defendant's punishment and abuse.
And don't be mistaken. We're going to explain to you how this was not the first time this little boy had come home covered in bruises and scrapes and too afraid to tell mommy what was happening. Straight out to crimeonline.com investigative reporter Nicole Parton. Nicole, what happened?
Early in the morning, around 9 a.m., Corey's mom, Brianna, drives over to the father's house. Corey is shared custody between mom and dad. She kisses her son, tells him goodbye. He's perfectly fine when he gets out of the car. And we know that around 3:40 later that afternoon, Corey's lifeless body, unconscious, is carried into the medical center.
Why was dad so angry? Was it because mommy was running late? Listen.
On March 20th of 2021, Corey's mom picked him up for a visit. They went to Pennsylvania and they saw their family. They were supposed to be back at about 3 or 4 o'clock. They were in Pennsylvania, there was traffic, and they were running late. Corey's mom told the defendant that. But Brianna's lateness, you'll hear, was pissing him off. He told Brianna to drop Corey off at the apartment complex's gym and meet him there. So she did. Corey and the defendant went into the gym, and you'll see what happened next. Because that gym had a surveillance system, and you will see what this defendant did to his son inside that gym.
Inside the gym, the video is speaking volumes. Joining me, an all-star panel to make sense of what we know right now. But I want to go first to a veteran trial lawyer. Oh, gosh.
Now, you would think that this is an open and shut case, but it's not. Thank you, Carly. Ha, like you got a new badge. Yes. Convicted. This is what we hope for, a conviction. You would think that it's an open and shut case, but it's not, because there's other sides to the story. The treadmill happened, and then a time frame happened, and then he passed. So what people are saying is it wasn't directly connected. There's people that might be on the jury. You're right, to the person who's asked, can't the jury only be the people that give justice? You're absolutely right. But we can have a voice for this young man and keep it out there, let people know, and make sure that this dad, even if he gets off, does not have a good existence after this trial is over.
Former homicide prosecutor, host of True Crime Boss, Jarrett Ferrantino at jarrettferrantino.com. Jarrett, before the advent of video cams literally everywhere, there was a very strong chance the father turned murder defendant could have claimed that the little boy had some other accident, because the boy was so afraid he would never tell anyone, not even doctors, not even teachers, not even his mother, exactly what dad was doing to him. But because we have this video surveillance, we know what dad did.
That video surveillance speaks for Corey, Nancy. That's his voice in that courtroom. This little boy endured that abuse. You know, and the shocking thing, too, is it was caught on camera, but it was in a public place. It was a gym. To think that he would have done this in a gym where other people could have walked in, only your imagination runs wild of what has gone on behind closed doors with this little boy and his father.
What more do we know? Take a listen.
When Corey Micciolo returns to his mother's after his second unsupervised visit with Christopher Gregor, the boy's face is swollen and he has a busted lip. Gregor offers no explanation, and Corey refuses to tell his mom what happened. Brianna Micciolo immediately calls police and files a report of abuse with New Jersey's Division of Child Protection and Permanency. Over the next 20 months, Corey continues to come home with bruises, scrapes, black eyes, and bite marks. Micciolo files 7 more reports of abuse, reportedly with little response from DCPP. Emails, texts, and hundreds of calls from Brianna Micciolo are unanswered. Agents are sent to interview Corey, but always while he is under the care of Gregor.
What does it take before DFACS, Department of Family and Children's Services, will actually do something? How many bruises? How many cuts? And then to interview the 6-year-old little boy, Corey, while he's with his abuser.
Yeah, warning. That's a perfect place to say warning, graphic content. Now, yeah, it's going to be other pictures that we did not see. So I want everyone to know that a lot of people failed this kid. The mom did try her best. You can say what you want about her. Anyone can. She's a recovering addict at this point, but she did try her best. She reported the dad, and a lot of people failed him. Okay, so apparently he was born as a result of the mom. Yes, 111 again. We've had 120, but we're back to 111. Make a wish, justice for Corey. Absolutely right. A crime to remember. Thank you for bringing that up. Warning.
Do you really think the boy is going to tell the truth? I want to warn you about very disturbing pictures and video that the jury is seeing that we are presenting to you. To Dr. Bethany Marshall, renowned psychoanalyst, joining us out of LA at drbethanymarshall.com. Dr. Bethany, I can hardly stand to look at these photos of abuse. Many people would refuse to believe it if video had not caught the moment dad forces the 6-year-old boy to run the treadmill because he says the boy is, quote, too fat. If anything, the boy, by the time he died, was too thin. Do you see those bruises on your monitor? They're all over his body, Bethany.
They are all over. And even when the prosecutor said that the child was fine when he was with his mother, he wasn't fine from the standpoint that he had probably been abused for years. The father didn't have interest in this child until he was 4 years old. And it's likely that he abused the child for many reasons, one of which was to get back at the mother. He probably had a rage disorder, but most importantly, he probably thought that the child was unconditionally bad. This is at the heart of child abuse, that the abuser feels the child is bad and also resents.
Now, I want you to know, folks, this is when he was still with his mother. She was taking pictures and reporting it to DCFS. And every time she would get him, she'd find these bruises, all these things. And the dad was saying, oh, we're playing football, we're working out, there was always an excuse and nothing happened. So I want you to know that at this point, it's not like we're not showing anything, that we're not showing him not alive. He is alive, but still a trigger warning. And hey, Tamara D, I'll call you. Yeah, punch marks, bruising, lots of things, lots of abuse going on. Justice for Corey. Let's not let this man get off, please. Let's pray.
Sense that the child has needs, and that's why they often restrict food. I've heard of abuse cases where families actually put a padlock on the refrigerator because they do not want the child to eat. So this child was abused in so many ways. And it's interesting, there was that strange mark on his forehead that the mother reported. In abuse cases, one of the things we see are marks that do not fit any particular pattern, such as a fall or something like that. Often they are on both sides of the body. When a child falls or there's an accident, the bruises will be on the one side. But in this case, we see bruises all over and on both sides, and also bite marks. That's quite common. And it seems that strange mark on the forehead might have been a bite mark.
Yeah, people, I don't want to pause it on this.
If you look at the video, in the opening statements, we hear the prosecutor state that there's biting. I've never heard of an adult biting.
I'll just leave it like that for a second. I want you to know, I know that these are terrible pictures. And yes, I was going to say Shonda Vander Ark did that with the lock. It's hard to watch, but this happens. And if you don't watch it and you ignore it, then it's not going to help bring awareness or justice. So it's okay if you can't watch it. I understand that. But the reason I'm bringing this to you and making sure I get it right this time and give you the timelines, because I need there to be awareness so that in the future, if you see a child like this at your school with your kids, their friends, you gotta say something. If you see something, you gotta say something. Okay, so I know we want to look away from this, but we have to look towards it so that we know that it's happening, people, and it happens more than you know. I guarantee you.
The child. But I'm looking now at the official warrant, the state of New Jersey versus Christopher Gregor, that's the father, and it states here that specifically he forced the child to run the treadmill, increasing the speed, putting the child on the treadmill while it was going full blast anyway, causing the baby to fall, placing him back on, and appearing to, quote, bite his head. I've never heard of biting your child, Dr. Bethany.
Believe it or not, it is a common sign of abuse. And think about it. What is biting? What does that mean? It's a sign of rage. It's primitive. It's kind of explosive. Like the person is so angry.
Right.
All they want to do is sink their teeth into the other person. That gives us great insight into the state of mind of this father. This child should never have been left alone with this man.
I want you to hear what the mom says on the stand under oath.
Did you speak to Corey in the car before you sent him into the defendant's home?
I did.
And was that the last time that you spoke to Corey?
Was.
Did Corey
Such a
exit your
cute little
car?
guy.
He did.
And can you tell the jurors where Corey walked?
He walked.
No, I want you to see this little boy, how beautiful he was. We have the testimony from yesterday, some of it of her speaking. This is the mother of the child. She's very brave. She goes up on the stand. She talks about her addiction. She talks about the truth. All she wants is justice for Corey. She's not embarrassed that she messed up, but she wants justice. So you can go back and watch yesterday's episode and see more court footage. And I don't know why they denied emergency hearing. I absolutely can't understand that.
Inside defendant's home.
And how was Corey walking when he went to the defendant's apartment?
Fine.
And did Corey open the apartment door of
Yeah.
the defendant's apartment?
Yes.
You're hearing the mom on the stand. I find it very interesting that dad never seems upset in the courtroom. He looks more angry than anything else. To Bill Daly, former FBI investigator, specialty forensic photography, security expert. Bill, thank you for being with us. I'm telling you, no one would have believed this without the video. Why? Because Corey, age 6, would never rat out his dad, even though he came home over and over and over, covered in bruises, horrible scrapes up and down his arm. Did you see where his eye, actually his eye was bleeding on the inside of the eye? I mean, how much does it take, Bill Daly, before somebody will listen? Now the boy is dead. Corey is dead at 6 years old, Bill.
Yeah, Nancy, and this heartbreaking story obviously has its long litany of images that were created, not just by the mother, which of course in the defense attorney's hands is going to be kind of twisted around, but that video taken by just a totally independent, operation, the gym, to convey what happened. So you piece those all together, and
If you piece it all together, I bet you he didn't piece it all together that he even realized that they were going to go back to that footage from months ago and take a look at it. And I wonder how many other times that he was running him on the treadmill that hard. Maybe he didn't fall like that. Maybe this was the worst one and they used it. I don't know. I also didn't get to join it, but not yet. Only NetLink. Yeah, his eye, the system failed him. He was brainwashed not to tell. I'm very curious to what makes an eye. Yeah, it could be, I've seen eye bleeds like that where someone gets hit in the face and then it bleeds into your eye. That happened to an engineer at my job the other day. He was working on something and the hammer came back and it hit him in the face and it made the eye bleed. So it could be from hitting your face.
put together a timeline. And from a forensic standpoint, and I don't want to speak to forensic pathology, but certainly a lot will that play into the cause of death and exactly what led to his I guess, immediate. First of all, he couldn't speak, he couldn't carry himself, he was stumbling, and then eventually he kind of became limp and went into the emergency room.
Brianna Micciolo is supposed to drop Corey off to his father. Gregor asks her to bring Corey to the fitness center of his apartment complex. Surveillance video inside the gym shows Corey running on a treadmill while Gregor turns up the speed and incline of the machine until the 6-year-old can't keep up and falls off. Gregor lifts the boy off the ground by his shirt, holding Corey over the running treadmill. Corey's feet slide out from under him several times as he tries to get his footing, and Gregor appears to bite Corey on the back of the head. Corey eventually starts running again and falls from the treadmill 5 more times before Gregor shuts it off and they leave together.
5 times, folks.
On April 2nd, what did the defendant tell you about Corey?
He was throwing up and just didn't feel good. And then he told me to send Corey's insurance card to him.
And did you send the defendant Corey's insurance card?
I did.
And did the defendant say anything about taking Corey to the hospital?
Yes.
And did the defendant tell you what hospital he was taking Corey to?
No.
Straight out to Dr. Kendall Crowns, Chief Medical Examiner, Tarrant County, that's Fort Worth, has conducted over.
Good night, by the way, to everyone who's leaving. I'm not leaving. I'm here. It's a Saturday night, and I just didn't feel right that I didn't get the story out as best as I can for the people that didn't know about it. It's about Corey and justice, and there were so many questions yesterday that I wasn't able to answer with no timeline, and the backstory wasn't good enough for me. So here it is now.
For 10,000 autopsies. Lecturer, University of Texas Christian Medical School. Dr. Crowns, thank you for being with us. You heard what the mother just testified to on the stand under oath, that the dad, for what good it is, states Corey was lethargic, his legs were hurting, sleeping all day, and throwing up. What does that mean?
So it could mean a number of things, but with the video that you've shown, with the extreme amount of exercise that's going on, you can have to question whether the child's dehydrated, becoming lethargic because he's exhausted, not getting any fluid intake, and then getting a low sodium, if you will, and becoming overall just dehydrated, which can lead to death in itself. But then you add on top of that the bruises and the other injuries. There could be other things going on internally that could be making him lethargic and tired.
Dr. Crowns, I want you to hear what we have learned about the initial autopsy. Listen.
The initial autopsy reveals that Corey died as a result of blunt force injuries with cardiac and liver contusions, along with inflammation and sepsis. The Ocean County Medical Examiner lists the manner of death as undetermined. A forensic pathologist performs a second autopsy confirming the blunt force trauma and injuries to Corey's liver and heart. The pathologist found evidence that Corey was chronically abused and believed he suffered an acute traumatic injury to his heart 4 to 12 hours before his death. Corey's death is reclassified as a homicide.
Wow. Dr. Kendall Crowns, what does that mean? Liver contusions, blunt force injuries, cardiac contusions? I thought a contusion was like a blow, like when you have blunt force contusion. Inflammation, sepsis, that's a lot.
Contusions are essentially bruises. It's just a fancier term. So when you see contusions of the heart and liver, that means there was a blow to the chest or the abdomen that was significant enough that it bruised the actual internal organs themselves. Sometimes with those, you can get splitting of the organ, which causes internal hemorrhage to be associated with it. One thing you have to be concerned of with children is if they have a lot of bruises on their skin, they don't have a large circulating amount of blood. So the more bruises they have, the more blood's going into these bruises, the more likelihood they're going to die from just the beating alone. But then you have internal injuries as well as the extreme exercise that the child was being forced to do. So you have all that combined is why he's dying from blunt force injuries. Then on top of that, you have sepsis, which is an infectious component, and that can be a result from neglect or something along those lines where he gets a disease and gets an infectious disease and then passes away.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what's up with the guy. People are saying that he's a little interesting. He looks like one of those typical guys that they show when you watch a movie and they show like these really nerdy scientist guys. That's what he looks like. Just looks like he's just all brain power. Interesting guy, but good information.
So a contusion is, in vernacular, common speech, a bruise. Is that right?
That's correct. Correct.
Okay. So how exactly do you get contusions on your liver and cardiac contusions? What's a cardiac contusion? A bruise on your heart?
That's correct. It's a bruise on the outer surface of the heart, which is called the epicardium. So you have a bruise on the outer surface, and that's from a very hard punch to the chest that causes the chest wall to push in and actually bruise the heart. You have to remember, too, with kids that their bone structure is a lot more pliable because your bones get harder over time. So when little kids have a lot more pliability in their chest, so if they're hit hard enough in the chest, they can get a bruise on their heart. The liver is a little easier to bruise because your liver isn't completely protected by your rib cage. So if you're punched in the abdomen, kind of upper abdomen area, you can get those bruises or injuries to the liver as well.
So your internal organs, such as in this case, well, there you go. Hold that picture, Liz. If you have a serious bruise on the right side of your stomach, let me just say 3-4 inches above your hip bone, is that your liver? But where is your liver?
So liver is on the right side of your body. It has it's very large on the right side, then becomes more smaller as you go to the left. But it's kind of sitting right across your mid abdomen, with the larger portion of it being in your upper and mid right abdomen is where your liver would be located.
And why would there be that excessive bleeding on the inside? Look at him. He's underweight. I wouldn't even say he's normal weight. I can see his bones and in his back.
Yeah, I don't even know where that came into this case. The headline that I saw was that the dad made him run on the treadmill because he was fat. So I thought I was going to find this little boy that was overweight. I have no idea where he even got that from. I think maybe that's just what he was telling him. No clue what he was even talking about or where that came from.
And you can see that bruise, another one on the left side toward the left back, above his waistband. Dr. Kendall Crowns, what is underneath the skin there? Left side, just above the waistband, going toward your back.
Left side, just above your waistband. It could be spleen, it could be kidney, also intestines as well. Also, again, you're mentioning the fact that he looks very bony. He is doing an extreme amount of exercise for a child of his age on that treadmill. Just in those scenes we're seeing, you got to figure there's more of that going on.
After the phone conversation, did you know at that time what hospital Corey was taken to?
No.
And at that time, what did you do?
I started calling the hospitals to see if Corey was there.
So this is the mom, and she was denied the emergency custody, and so now she's on the stand. That's her talking in the background. If you can't handle this now, you probably don't want to watch the trial. I'll be covering highlights of it throughout the trial, like things that happen, and just so you know what's going on, but I can't cover the whole trial. But yeah, I definitely don't think you should watch the trial if you can't, if you don't want to watch this or it's too sad. But we will tell you when the verdict comes in.
I also called my local police department to kind of report Corey as like I don't know where he is, and he's not feeling good. He's sick.
And about 6 o'clock that day on the 2nd,
right,
did the police come to your home?
Yes.
And did you learn at that time that Corey had passed?
I did.
You are seeing the mom on the stand breaking down in tears. And she describes her ex calling her and telling her their 6-year-old son, is in the hospital, but not telling her, refusing to tell her which hospital. To Dr. Bethany Marshall, that's just another form of torture. If somebody called me and told me John David or Lucy were in the hospital and wouldn't tell me where, can you even imagine trying to find somebody in an ER?
Nancy, this just shows the animosity towards the mother as well as the child. And one of the things we frequently see in child abusers is that they want to dominate and control the child. They hate the child. They want to starve the child. They sometimes commit death by exercise, but they want to dominate and control. So this is just another form of abuse, as you just now pointed out, depriving the mother of knowledge about her own son.
I want to.
Yeah, that's absolutely unacceptable. They could have given her access to her son and made her take drug tests. There should have been something. If anybody's watching the trial and you know how long it's expected to last, it depends on the amount of witnesses. I can't imagine that it's going to last longer than like 3 weeks. It's definitely not a Chad Daybell case that's going to go like 10 or 8 or 10 weeks. So probably sooner than later.
Go back to Dr. Kendall Crowns. And Liz, if you could please play the video of Corey on the treadmill. Dr. Crowns, I think we've identified, I'm waiting for that video, the moment when the dad actually bites the little boy, actually bites his son. Hold it, wait. He puts him back on. The treadmill's still going fast. Look, there, right there. He's using both hands to restrain the boy. All he's got left are his teeth. And the boy tries to shrink down. Corey shrinks down to try to get away from the bite. But the dad is actually biting him. His rage is.
He's being charged with child endangerment and unaliving him, we'll say, even though this has already had a bunch. So the big M word and child endangerment. He's looking at life in prison. He didn't take the 30-year plea deal, and now he's facing life.
Boiling over. And because his hands and feet are occupied, he bites the boy. Dr. Kendall Crowns, have you ever seen anything like it?
Yes, I have. In child abuse cases, occasionally you will get ones that have bites on the face, neck, extremities, chest, back. I've seen it on any surface of the body, but as Dr. Marshall mentioned earlier, the rage associated with the child abuse can often boil over into just biting.
Oh, my stars. Just what this child has been through, Dr. Bethany, when we're showing the bruises on his right side, and then we learn part of the COD, cause of death, is bruising to the liver. That was what that bruise is. Actual bruising to his heart. And then being able to really look and examine the video, and you see his own bio dad holding him by the arms and forcibly biting him in the head.
You know, Nancy, this father had prolonged
That's
rage
insane,
and
man.
contempt for this child. Like I said earlier, he wanted to bring the child under his control so he could torture him. Nancy, you and I have covered so many cases where there is death by exercise. Many years ago, a little girl whose stepmother forced her to just walk and walk and walk endlessly, and eventually the little girl died. And in this kind of a case, you know, we see it's not just, you know, all parents get angry with their children now and again, but it's temporary. Then the parent withdraws, they calm themselves down, they reason, they talk with the other parent, and it's just momentary. They don't hit the child. But in this case, the child was actually an object used to disperse rage and hatred towards the child, towards the mother, towards God knows. You know what, Nancy? When I see this dad in court, maybe I shouldn't say this, but he looks a little roided out to me. Like he looks like he's on steroids or something, like a natural, jawline, huge shoulders. That can produce rage. But notwithstanding, the size of the dad compared to this little boy, and sadly, Nancy, the mental state of this little boy is probably that he feels like he's bad, guilty. He deserves to be punished. I am a bad little boy. And if I don't keep this secret, that's going to hit me even more, because that means I'll be really, really, really bad. So one of the things we can't measure is the state of mind of the child and what happens in his mind and psychologically as a result of the abuse.
Dr. Kendall Crowns, remember, you're speaking to a panel of lay people. I'm trying to figure out how bruising, even if to the heart or the liver, causes someone to become sleepy and nauseous. It sounds like a brain bleed, but I know that that's not the COD cause of death. But I know that happens when you have a brain bleed. Then he is stumbling, slurring his words. He's having trouble breathing. So how does that relate to the essentially beating he took on that treadmill, the biting, the beating, the blows? How does that end up resulting in stumbling, slurring, having trouble breathing, sleepy, nausea?
Well, so I would agree with you that those symptoms sound more like a head injury than they do a abdomen or chest injury. But again, with the extreme exercise, I do think he's potentially dehydrated, possibly getting confused from the dehydration. And then the father becomes enraged and beats him. And then he probably becomes unresponsive. Dad takes him to the hospital. So the initial symptoms of he's, confused, lethargic are what causes the dad to become enraged and starts hitting him.
Christopher Gregor called Brianna Micciolo to tell her he took their son to the hospital, but did not tell her where. Micciolo called several hospitals and could not locate Corey, so she filed a missing persons report. At 5:30 p.m., cops tell Micciolo that her son has died just a month before his 7th birthday. After hearing the news of his son's death at the hospital, Christopher Gregor packs a bag and leaves for Tennessee. Gregor refuses to speak with authorities, requesting an attorney. Brianna Micciolo drives to Christopher Gregor's Barnegat apartment for a short visit with Corey 3 days after dropping him off with Gregor at the fitness center. Micciolo notices odd bruises and scrapes on Corey's forehead and chest. Corey won't tell her what happened, but seems upset and scared. Micciolo files another abuse complaint and for emergency custody with DCPP. Micciolo also schedules a doctor's appointment for Corey during her next parenting time. Through tears, Corey tells the doctor about the treadmill incident and says Gregor forced him to run because he was too fat. The doctor notes 14 bruises or scrapes on Corey's body, but the rest of his tests come back normal. Micciolo's request for emergency custody is denied, and she returns Corey to Gregor the next morning.
Can you even imagine? Mommy makes an emergency request for custody, and she is denied, and it was just emergency temporary custody until there could be a full hearing. She was denied, and now the boy is dead. Fail by the system. But that's not all. Listen.
Pediatrician.
We are going to listen in just a second. Jojo Pashosho, I noticed any little red mark on my child. There's no way I'd send my baby back to the dad if I thought anything was going on either. Look at the Madeline Soto case. That's all I have to say. Jennifer Soto, 2 words, done.
Dr. Nancy Deacon saw Corey Micciolo on April 1st, 1 day before he passed. And during her court testimony, she lists out all of the bruises and other injuries present on the boy's body. Dr. Deacon listed a blue-gray bruise on his left cheek, a large yellow-green bruise on his left shoulder, another large yellow-green bruise on his left inner arm, a blue bruise present on his elbow. Beyond over 12 bruises that covered Corey Micciolo's body, the doctor noted 2 areas on the right side of his chest that she called it 2 areas of hyperpigmented skin, meaning the wound was healing, but pigment had not yet returned.
Yet for some reason, Corey gets sent back to his dad, and now he is dead by treadmill, telling the little boy he was, quote, too fat. I could see the bones coming out of his back. To Jarrett Fiorentino, high-profile lawyer, former homicide prosecutor, and host of podcast True Crime Boss. Jarrett Fiorentino, I know that you have interviewed many.
I have to stop and say hello to Miracle Hearts, too. Thank you for being here. I missed you last night, and yeah, I got into this today because I wanted to bring the timeline and all the correctness of the case before trial day 4. So thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Miracle Hearts, too. You are one of the day ones, along with a lot of other folks here. No roids in prison, buddy.
child victims and child witnesses, and you have to unlock their story. They don't talk like we do. For instance, if you're trying to get a date to put on an indictment, you have to say things like, was the Christmas tree up? Did the Easter bunny come? Did you have the American flag, red, white, and blue out? Was it around July the 4th? That's just an example. And I remember the very last thing typically a child would say, I would say, who did this? Who did this? Who made this bruise? Who made you take off your underwear? Who? And there'd be a long pause, and they would say, fill in the blank, Daddy or Uncle Jim or whoever the perp was. It's very hard, difficult to get that out of a child, especially if the child loves the parent, even when the parent is abusing the child.
Right.
Absolutely, Nancy. And oftentimes they look down and you know the truth is coming. But when a child can't speak, if Corey could not or would not say what happened to him, just from head to toe, this little boy had bruising at various levels of healing, which is indicia of chronic abuse. The system failed this little boy tremendously.
Right.
It's so sad to listen to the account of those injuries and those interviews. If you couldn't get it out of Corey, the physicians or whoever examined this little boy or the judge that looked at that emergency petition should have absolutely, it should have spoke volumes to them.
You know, Dr. Bethany Marshall, I recall an animal abuse case I looked at, and in the case, the perp was shooting BBs at the dog in rapid succession, like a lot, like 20, 30 BBs right at the dog. And the dog, instead of running, was on all fours down, crawling toward the master, wagging the tail and yelping with pain, not running away. And look, I'm just a JD. You're the shrink. What does it mean when the victim is still so deeply attached to the abuser? Corey wouldn't tell that his dad was doing this. He finally did tell, you know, the doctor ultimately, at first tried to blame it on playing football with his dad, and then finally mentioned the treadmill incident. But what is that? Why do we humans and pets do that? We go toward our abuser.
I know. It's so tragic. And you said so beautifully earlier, this little boy loved his dad. Of course, we are wired to connect. That's how we survived as a species, is that we bonded with our caregivers. And it's well known that when you interview a child victim, or even an adult victim, you can't start with daddy is bad or your husband hit you, because that person has had some good experiences, believe it or not, with the abuser. Daddy threw the football. Daddy maybe told him a bedtime story. Daddy fed him. So that is not all bad to the child. And this is a very important thing to remember whenever, let's say, you have a friend who's in an abusive relationship, or a fellow church member, to not say, well, why are you with him? Or he's a horrible person, but to try to acknowledge both sides of their experience with that person, because that is actually more genuine and true and will align them with you, and it will give you a better chance of helping them.
Joining us is an investigative reporter with Crime Online, Nicole Parton. Nicole, not only investigating cases, but very, very familiar with.
I'm really glad that everybody's here tonight, taking the time to take a look at this case. I know a lot of people have seen it on the channels. It's a big deal right now because the case just started. Many channels are covering it. Thank you for being here. And thank you to Nancy Grace for going in such extent on this. When I saw this, I knew I had to bring it to you with all these experts so you can see exactly what happened. And I also wanted you to know that we're not going to let Corey, and I hope that he doesn't get failed justice. This father is very, very confident that he didn't take a deal. Good night, Melissa. Have a good one. So we want to make sure. Yeah, we got Wes, and we got another one here. It's actually Trace. He's over here crying. He's right by my feet. I don't know what he wants. Yeah, the dogs. I think they're ready for dinner, which I will feed them very soon.
The foster system. Why is it takes so long, Nicole, and you've seen it over and over and over, for children to actually be removed from an abusive parent?
So many cases. And in this case, if you count up the number of times that Brianna reported the abuse, over 100 times, she made calls. She was doing everything she could.
If somebody could drop a link for CBC for a membership, that'd be great. It's right below you, CBC. If you just follow that link to the membership, YouTube.com/@guiltyofcrime/join, you could become part of the Crime Crew official. Lots of perks. We're going to have lots of more content that's members only. Thank you for asking.
To report the abuse of her son. One day before Corey's death, she was denied that emergency hearing to have him temporarily removed. The system failed. His father failed, but the system failed little Corey tremendously, and he paid the ultimate sacrifice for that.
Did
Nancy,
you
can I make
say?
a comment about that?
Yeah, jump in. And I want to clarify what I heard, Bethany. I think that he was reported over 100 times. Did I hear that correctly?
That's right. That's right. There were many, 100 calls, over 100 that were made, not only from Corey's mother, from Corey's school teacher, who had said there's abuse, there's neglect, there's an abuse, a repeated number of phone calls coming into the Department of Children. And just one day before his death, the judge denied that emergency hearing.
Bethany?
You know, Nancy, I see this all the time in my practice, parents who are reporting abuse. And, what happens is that they eventually become paranoid, obsessed, and they kind of look and sound crazy. Like they discredit themselves in some ways because they are so upset. A parent's job is to protect a child. And here the system is actually interfering with the maternal instinct, the drive to protect. And so that the more the parent pleads with Child Protective Services, the more they're kind of dismissed and devalued as being just sort of a crazy parent or a part of a domestic abuse situation. And I think that there has to be better training, that parents whose children are being abused often present with a lot of anxiety, a lot of panic, a lot of paranoia, and that is the most credible sign that they're telling the truth.
Gotta stop that music. I don't know what happens, but I know it's Nancy's, and we don't need to watch the treadmill again. We just want to talk about this and see what's going on. CBC, thank you for becoming a member. We appreciate you, Melissa. Don't get discouraged. I don't know if you're still here, but I run this channel and people talk crap to me all day, every day, emails, text messages, all that. So don't let someone in chat discourage you, please. We're a safe community here. I'm not sure what happened, but yeah, Melissa Johnson, don't unsubscribe. I'm here and I get it all the time. I get the brunt of it.
I want you to hear the teacher one more time. It's not just the mom they're making look crazy because she's reported dad 100 times over 20 months. The teacher raised the red bell of alarm, but nobody listened. Listen to Kim Peace. This is Corey's first grade teacher, and I want you to notice that she sees the bruises, and Corey is then kept on virtual learning remote. Listen.
What, if any, observations did you make of Corey when you saw him virtually on March 29th?
I saw bruises on his cheek.
Is that the same as what you were describing from March 23rd?
No.
And did Corey attend school virtually on March 30th?
Yes.
Did you observe him?
Yes.
What, if any, observations did you make?
The bruising.
Oopsie. Dr. Bethany Marshall, Daddy forgot to cry in court just then. The teacher, the first grade teacher, you expect the teacher to be sending home construction paper, art, and checks and big stars on the child's papers they do at school. Instead, first grade teacher's on the stand describing day after day after day of bruising on this boy. And did you hear the prosecutor? She's really good. Say, hey, is that the same bruises you described on March 23? She goes, oh no, this is March 30. By this time, they were keeping him home on remote. Did you see Daddy not even shed one tear?
Nancy, I also noticed that the dad looked quizzical, like he was.
Yeah, and we're going to watch some of that. If it doesn't get too graphic, we'll find out. Thank you, Sherry Pielta, for becoming a member. Come here, Tracy. I have one of my other dogs here. He's right below me, just walking back and forth. He's right there. I don't know why he's crying. I do know that. Hi, baby. Come here. He's 14 years old, and he actually has seizures sometimes. So I don't know if he's in pain or what. No, I can't pick him up. Sorry. All right. Sorry about that. Come here, Tracy. It's okay. Come here, buddy.
So stumped by how this could have happened. I was scanning his face, and he kind of looks like a person who's, the pathological liar, the abuser, like the criminality, a person who has criminality. And you ask him about the crime, and they go, "What? Me? I never did that." It's almost like he's playing a role in court.
He sure looks a lot different in court than he does in that video. Can I see that video again, please? Where he's forcing Corey, 6 years old. Yeah, pick him up, throw him back on. Look at the treadmill. I wouldn't even try to jump on a treadmill going that fast. Look, run, making him run full speed, biting him. The boy is dead. Corey is dead. It looks like the father is actually breaking a sweat down his back from the abuse he's heaping on his little boy. That trial happening now. We stop to remember American hero, Deputy Sheriff Tobin Bolter, just 27. Sheriff Bolter was shot.
All right. So last night she did that as well. Everybody take a moment of silence for Deputy Sheriff Tobin Bolter. I don't know who exactly this is, but any officer or sheriff that passes, we want to take a moment of silence for. All right, we're done with that. And my little buddy is done whining now. My daughter took care of him. It wasn't Wesson. is actually Trace. I have 4 dogs now, folks. So, yeah. Okay. Let's see here. I think I have one more going on for you, and I can also look at gifting a membership. Let's take a look. You know, I also wanted to show you something. If you're okay with me being off topic, I am going to. I am going to show you something really cool. We always love Deception Detective, and so next week I'm going to do this. He shouted me out on his channel, and I wanted you to take a look.
Insights into topics I cover, like Guilty of Crime, or Pat Brown, or Zawoki, What's the Obsession?
Watch. Let me go a little bit back. I know you heard that, but I want you to make sure you see it. And also, he's talking about the Delphi case. What's up, Melissa? I love you too. I thought you were going to bed. Okay, so I am going to do that Delphi case because I just want people to know where I stand on Richard Allen and what I think about him. So I'm not going to get into the Delphi case per se, but check this out. When Deception Detective calls me out, I answer.
And supply their own insights into topics I cover, like Guilty of Crime, or Pat Brown, or Zawoki, What's the Obsession, Dolly Vision. If any of you are aware whether or not this transcript is available, please do post it in the DD forum, because.
All right, so he wants to know if any of us know about the transcript, and I was lucky enough to get an answer from True Crime Investigates, Reno, since he knows that case inside and out. So next week I will be covering Richard Allen, Deception Detective case. All right, so that trial starts May 13th, and because it starts May 13th, I am going to tell you what I think about. I'm going to tell you what I think about Richard Allen and my feelings that I've had the whole entire time about Richard Allen. So I absolutely feel that they have the right person, folks. All right, let's check this out real quick, and I'll let you watch this for a second while okay, so this is the autopsy, the Christopher, while the autopsy is, they're showing the photos. You're not going to see them, but you're going to see the dad.
Did you have in this investigation?
We wrapped up after that, and then the next morning, which would be later in the morning after the search at Englishtown, the autopsy was conducted at 9 a.m. on Saturday the 3rd.
April 3rd?
April 3rd.
Okay. And did you go to that?
Yes.
And when you went, where was that located?
Community Medical Center in Toms River.
And when you got there, was anybody else there, or did you go with anyone else?
There were 2 detectives from my unit, Detective Daniel Lesnikowski and Detective Ralph Laudicina, as well as Detective Purcell from Barnegat Township Police Department, Detective Dennis Mitchell, Detective Joe Mitchell, Sergeant John Carroll, and Lieutenant Brian Haggerty of the Ocean County Prosecutor's Office.
Now, while you were there, what was your understanding of what your role was?
So our role in the autopsy is we basically work hand in hand with the medical examiner, who does the autopsy, and we do all the photographs and collection of any evidence from that autopsy.
Were photographs taken?
Yes.
Okay. Who took the photographs?
Detective Lesnikowski.
And were you in his presence while he was taking them?
Yes.
And who directed him to take?
All right, so while we're watching this, because I wanted you to see this guy's face and his demeanor, we're at 111 again, and I want you all to say a quick wish, prayer, put some good vibes out for Corey, and let's hope that we get justice for Corey. And the crime scene is in here. That is JT from Poco. He's right here. He found a new name for his channel. I love it. The crime scene with JT. So that's going to be a lot better. And no, Giselle is not a troll. Giselle, we love you just like any of the other crime crew. Sometimes Giselle has opinions, and I love your opinion. So keep rocking them.
The photographs that he took.
We have a set of standard photographs we take on every autopsy. Then everything else after that is done at the direction of the medical examiner, pathologist conducting the examination.
Judge, may we approach sidebar so I could show the court the pictures first? Thank you.
All right, let's see. They're not going to show those, but they're going to show the dad. We obviously don't want to watch those. All right. He's pretending like he cares. I don't know why all of a sudden he has headphones in, folks. What's going on? Yes, wish for change. There's too many children now that are being abused. Too many of these things happening. Yeah, the trolls need to get their own channel. I agree with that. We're almost we're at an hour and 30 minutes, and I wanted to make sure I brought information that you can use. Alyssa or Laura Dodd from the UK. I keep trying to press it and it's going to the wrong thing. Thank you for being here. All right, what happened?
So you were saying that, right?
Correct.
And I think you had said that some of them are standard and some of them are at the direction of the medical examiner.
Correct.
He's a
When you
cyborg.
first get to the autopsy before you begin your pictures, could you tell me what happened?
So
What happened in this room?
So the deceased is transported from the location of incident, which in this case was Southern Ocean Medical Center. We seal the body bag. Every body bag is identified and sealed. The decedent's information. It also is the seal numbers placed on the bag, and also in very large letters, do not open. So that bag is basically now treated as evidence from Southern Ocean Medical Center to Community Medical Center. We have a funeral home. We have funeral homes on contract that transport for us. So in this case,
I just gifted 5 memberships, folks. So if you can, stay in here. You don't have to be in here to get it, but stay in here and hopefully you'll get a membership. Anybody that wanted one tonight.
transported to Community Medical Center, where he is then placed under the care of their security and morgue, where he's signed in, kept in the morgue, and remains there until we arrive for the autopsy the next day.
And when you arrived for the autopsy the next day, what was the procedure initially?
So the initial procedure is the bag is brought into the examination room, placed on a table, and we then rephoto that bag as we last left it, which would be sealed and marked. We then rephoto all that again, and then the bag is then unsealed by the medical examiner's personnel to begin the examination.
Okay. And was there a name and markings contained on that bag?
Yes.
What were those?
Look at the dad.
It would be the
Look
name
at
of
his
Corey
face.
Micciolo and his date of birth, social security number, the bag time, who bagged it, and the seal number.
What do you
And all
think?
those
You
things
think
were
he's
present on
crying?
there when you arrived at the autopsy the
Yes.
next day? And were they the same or substantially similar to the hospital the night before?
Yes.
Now, after you photograph the bag in
Thank
that
you.
condition, what is the next part of the procedure, generally speaking?
So the next part of the procedure is we open the bag. That seal is broken. As I said, once the doctor's ready to begin the examination, the bag is unzipped, and we do a overall photography and examination of.
They're talking about the body bag being open, folks, and the autopsy. So, yeah, I don't think he's crying either. I don't see any tears. He's acting like he's crying, but he's the one that did that, folks. He's the one that did that to his son. So, Jay's dad, I did check that out, and he does have a assault record. He was caught stealing from a roommate in college. 2 guys confronted him and assaulted. He's a loose cannon. He's a loose cannon with women as well, and children. So he's just all around just not a good guy.
The body as the way it was, because this is now the first time the pathologist is viewing the body.
So some of the photographs are taken then at the onset before the autopsy begins.
Correct.
Okay. Are there more photographs taken after those initial ones?
Thank you.
So the first one would be as he was. The second set would then be after all the medical equipment, clothing, and any jewelry or anything else is removed.
You nailed it, folks. He's crying for himself as they talk about opening the body bag that he put his son in.
Is there another set that's taken after that?
Then after that, we do the posterior of the body, and then that is when the examination begins. And the doctor then pretty much runs the show from there and what pictures are taken.
And then do you take pictures during the actual examination?
Yes.
All right. Stop sharing this, and I really hope that everybody that wanted to get a gift tonight got gifted a membership. We have a lot of things coming up. Let's have justice for Corey. Let's yeah, Gigi, you'll probably be able to see that. You just need to I guess I could probably show you on my own stream how to do it. All right, let me share the screen for you and take a look. What's up, Kenzie, again from the UK? Yeah, absolute piece of garbage. Let me show you real quick, okay? You can watch me watch myself show you how to do it. I'm going to go real quick. It's on the computer, and then we'll say goodnight. All right. Let me share my screen. So this is in real time, us doing this. We're in the chat here. I gifted 5 memberships. You see how you can say something right here, right? I said that. Go into the chat. There's a $sign. You click on that. There's membership gifting, memberships, super chat, and super stickers. All right. Did you see that? That's just in the chat area. So I clicked out of that. Show chat. If you're in the chat, sometimes you have to refresh it. Yeah, see, it didn't come up this time. But anyhow, I'm going to stop sharing that so I'm not watching myself. I think my camera might have went out. Hold on. Let's go back. What happened there? No, I didn't like that. Let me reload. All right, folks. I guess that means it's time for me to head out since dogs are hungry and it's late. My green screen is the only thing coming up, and it didn't like me sharing myself with you. Thank you, Deb, for being here. I appreciate that. And yeah, the trial is long sometimes, and discussing it, you might miss something. AJ's friend, dad was a lawyer, hot, cold showers being. Yeah, I don't remember that, but I would love to look into all of these. I have so many of them. Democracy, not fascism. Thank you. Thank everybody. Email me if you have questions or you want to send me cases. I'll do the best that I can. The green screen is green. It's super green. It makes my hair look green too, which is kind of cool. Good night, everybody. On that note, I appreciate you for being here, folks. You're the best.
Guilty of crime.
I want to thank you for watching. If you enjoyed my content, please share this video, like, and subscribe. You can also follow me over at Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, or Gmail. If you'd like to donate to my channel, you can use Cash App or Venmo or PayPal. Thank you very much in advance. Guilty of crime.
Are you guilty?